Hey everybody, it is Yishan here, back again with another video. And if you clicked on this video, you already know what you are here for. You're here to hear my opinions on whether or not Mystic Mine will be banned. A little bit of a discussion. I'm going to sort of examine both arguments, both cases, some other, maybe middle ground solutions that we could possibly have. And I'll try to maybe convince you guys of my opinion. So this is going to be a little discussion, a little opinion-based, maybe argumentative debate sort of thing. But here we go. Should Mystic Mine be banned, yes or no? Also, if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you please consider subscribing. I mean, I just checked. I got like more than 70% of my viewers are not subscribed. And also, check out my TCG player link. And if you want custom mats or sleeves, check out the Your Play mat link in the description below. Okay, let us take a look, shall we? Mystic Mine, yes or no, should it be banned? Well, you have to admit, no matter what side of the fence you're on, you have to admit that there are arguments for both sides. So I think, let's go over them really quickly, right? So, arguments for banning it. Mystic Mine promotes unhealthy gameplay where players either concede instantly or have to continue playing for the slim chance that they can win by drawing a quote-unquote out. And this creates for very boring, very deterministic games where kind of all the excitement is honestly out of it. But on the counter side, right, you got people, I think rightly claiming that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is at a state where people are just building these unbreakable boards going first. And these boards, like Mystic Mine, are pretty uninteractive, right? Not always, there's hand traps and stuff. And these boards are interactive, so how come they're allowed? And I think that's a fair point, right? So that's a good sort of argument for like, well, hold on a second, right? These boards are big, and I need a way to stop these big boards somehow, right? Because sometimes the problem with modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Is I spend all my resources breaking the board, but I don't do anything myself. You just kill me, right? Whereas if I have a mine, I can just stall the next 20 turns, and then either you concede or I will have caught up enough to grind you out. So fair arguments for both sides. Now, I looked at a lot of the debates online, and honestly, they all boil down to pretty much the same counter arguments. Honestly, we got some, this is like the first layer of argument. This is the second layer of argument. People say like, well, okay, hold on a second. People play, hand traps and board breakers to stop unbreakable boards. So there is interaction, right? Like there, it's not too often that someone just full combos. I mean, maybe it feels very often, but the top players are somehow still winning like 70 to 80% of their matches. So I think, there's definitely some interaction involved. And so you're telling me that you are playing outs to unbreakable boards. You play outs to unbreakable boards in the form of hand traps, but you won't play outs for Mystic Mine. Now, this is sort of a fair argument. I don't quite also buy it because, like, hand traps don't only out unbreakable boards, but they also provide interaction just against decks that are not building unbreakable boards as well. So I don't consider this really, a total nose-to-nose comparison where sometimes spell and trap removal is just not very useful, but I think we're sort of, there's a balance, and this can go on and on and on. Well, this, that, the other thing, right? Okay, you play hand traps. Why don't you just play some harpies? And honestly, sometimes a couple outs is not enough, and if you play too many outs of Mystic Mine, then all of a sudden you can't beat the combo decks, and so it's like it's just just goes on and on and on and on and on. So really, these are the pretty standard kind of arguments for both sides. So okay, before I really go into that, let's ask what my community thinks. What do you guys think? I put out a poll the other day, and it got 1,000 votes. So there are people like voting on this stuff. I guess that's what I learned. And you guys all said that about 69% nice. Excuse me, a little bit juvenile of me, but it's pretty funny. Said yes, and 31% of you said no. So I think it's a little bit more than 2/3, 1/3. So that doesn't I don't think if like 31% of people is a pretty large amount of people that still think this card should be legal, right? So we can see where the average trend of the community lies based on our sample size, but nothing too crazy, right? So there's that. So what are my thoughts on the matter? So I've been thinking about this a lot the last week, and there was Po Jiang who won the YCS Hartford with Sky Striker, and I don't want to take that into account. I feel like that's recency bias, right? It's good for him that he won. I think it's made Mystic Mine more popular, which maybe makes some people angry, but I don't want to use that as sort of, oh well, there's proof that Mystic Mine is broken, right? So let's try to take a look at it from a more logical standpoint. I think you can't say that there are not, like, both arguments don't work. Or, like the arguments that we've covered in this video, none of them are incorrect. I mean, you can't say any of them are factually incorrect. You can disagree, but saying that it's factually incorrect, I think is just, you just can't say that. They're both right. Both sides are right. But what I have a big problem with, and I don't see people talking about this, is what about the players in the middle? What about the players that are not trying to build these unbreakable boards or try to play uninteractive cards to counter other strategies, right? These players still, a lot of the time, get screwed by Mystic Mine. Like, you got your average Joes, or, nothing too competitive. They maybe go to locals, play whatever deck they want, and all of a sudden they have Mystic Mine. I mean, that just cannot be a good experience. And there's no what about, these players aren't building unbreakable boards. They're trying to, like, play Yu-Gi-Oh with you, and you just put down a mine on them, and that's the end of it. I just don't like that. Like, the players that are not building unbreakable boards, right? And so I think, I personally think that, the board building is an okay state right now. It's probably still a little bit too much, because, you're kind of forced to play hand traps. And so I think, the board building strategies are probably also a little bit too strong right now. And I do think they should be nerfed more. But I also think that Mystic Mine should be nerfed more. I feel like we're punishing the players in the middle too much. The players that don't really, that are sort of could go either way. And so, honestly, that's my opinion. Is like, don't forget about the people in the middle, right? You can point to the two ends of the extreme, but don't forget about the people in the middle. And so, that is sort of my take on the issues, that I think it should be banned. And along with other board building cards, there's a lot of problems. Halki Fibrax is Prom Scythe is a problem. There's so many problems, right? And I think the game could use some cleaning. I think what we're doing right now, another thing about is, we also do like a lot of these arguments that we're looking at right now are sort of, they fall under the category of whataboutism, which is sort of it's not really a logical fallacy. It's just sort of like, it's not a good reasoning to prove your point, right? When we say, like, it's funny because I said, but what about the players in the middle? Well, let me explain what whataboutism is. We have basically saying, well, these guys are building an unbreakable board, so Mystic Mine is okay. That's not actually true. That's not to say that you're not actually arguing anything for Mystic Mine. You're just pointing over somewhere else and sort of laying the blame on, well, that's those guys that did, those guys should be the ones apologizing, not me. I'm just playing Mystic Mine because those guys are forcing me to, right? And so I think, you're not really arguing for Mystic Mine, but what you are saying is maybe the board building is too powerful, and I would agree with you there, but I don't think it's a good argument for saying that Mystic Mine, shouldn't be banned. I just don't. That's whataboutism. You're not really arguing a good argument. You're just pointing at someone else and saying, "Hey, there's problems over there too," which is true. There are problems over there, but it's not really a logical argument. So that's sort of my thoughts on the matter. There's some other thoughts though. I read some of the comments. A lot of people said, "Hey, what about Mystic Mine to 1?" I could be okay with that personally. I wouldn't like that either. But I think it's better. Maybe it's better than having it banned at 3. But honestly, it should just be banned, in my opinion. But it's better. It's definitely an improvement, right? And what are your thoughts on board breaking and board making? Because I've heard from a lot of people that it's really satisfying to learn combos and then learn how to play around hand traps if you can. But it's also super satisfying to play through these boards, right? To play through these disruptions, and sometimes slapping down a mine after you've baited all your opponent's interruptions is extremely satisfying. So sort of let me know, like, is that, maybe you could say that that's an argument for keeping these kind of things in the game, is that it can give both parties satisfaction, both on board breaking and board making. But I think probably, we're still a little bit too much at the extremes. But, please leave me your thoughts in the comments below. I'd be certainly very interested to hear about them. I think this is a really contentious topic. And I just wanted to add a little bit new to the discussion. So that's going to be it for this video, guys. I hope I made some sense. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments below. And until next time, guys, subscribe, like, comment, and I will see you all in the next video.